Welcome, friends and foes, survivors and killers. Let's sit around the campfire together and talk about Dead by Daylight. Specifically, about Dead by Daylight's strongest killer. A survivor-shredding, finger-slicing, bottle-tossing Hercules of a man, so intensely terrifying and devilishly handsome that the developers had to rework him. Jeffrey Hawke, better known as Kenneth Chase, even better known as the Clown. Dead by Daylight's biggest, thickest lad was released as part of the Curtain Call chapter on June the 12th, 2018, and his impact on the game was as huge as his generous waistline. The game was in a fairly quiet place at the time of the Clown's release, with the chapter before Curtain Call being licensed to some random indie horror film from 2004, Sao I think it was called, and the one after didn't give us anything terribly interesting either. It gave us The Spirit. I mean, while she did inspire a whole new generation of Rule 34 artists to come oozing out of the woodwork and burrow into our community like goddamn tapeworms, she never really had anything to offer to the high-skill players of this game, the people who could play Dead by Daylight like nobody else could, to get the results that lesser men with lesser killers could only dream of. That level of cutting-edge mechanical precision, demanding the apex of tactical mastery, could only be reserved for our man Kenneth. The gameplay options that the Clown's power enables has combos like a fighting game, with such arcane movesets as throw purple bottle, throw yellow bottle, and throw yellow bottle and then purple bottle, interspersed with holding the W key to combo with your standard attack for an unbeatable flurry of aggression. You would expect with such nuanced and multifaceted gameplay, the Clown would also have a nuanced and multifaceted character to go along with it, and behaviour did not disappoint. The Clown's character is so vast in so many ways that I can't hope to fully cover his magnitude in a single video. Instead, I want to take a dive into one of the many aspects that make the Clown such a magnificent specimen of creative design. The integration of his add-ons into his gameplay allows the act of playing the Clown to tell a story in and of itself. The cheap gin bottle, for example, tells the story of the day that good old Kenneth had more bottles on him than he normally did, so he put some chemicals in them and threw them at survivors who were being pissheads that day. And the redhead's pinky finger tells a story of how he lost his temper at the nurse for leaving all his shit around the asylum, because while, yes, he does technically share the realm with her, let's be honest here, she does all the work around the house, and all she asks of him is to feed Maurice and put his finger collection away when he's done with it. But no, Kenneth, you can't even get up off your lazy ass and clean up after yourself. Jesus Christ, Kenneth, I thought we could make this work. You're not the same man who came to this asylum all those years ago, Kenneth. You've changed. Anyway, Clown's add-ons are as illustrative of his character as they are powerful and interesting. But there has always been one add-on with true meaning that has eluded me. I've studied it for years, my work has been exhausting. I've barely been able to rest at night with this mystery burning a hole in my brain. But after devoting myself body, mind and soul to this Sisyphean labour, I finally got to the bottom of the enigmatic and labyrinthine mystery of the VHS porn. The significance of the VHS porn in realising the Clown's character cannot be understated. It establishes the Clown as someone obsessed with physical excess, which is the academic term for flogging one's meaty bishop, and dates his character to some time between 1977 and the very early 21st century, where the VHS fell into popularity on account of it being shit. But if you pull this interesting little thread of story too hard, question after question unravels themselves like a tapestry in front of you. For starters, it's implied that he actively watches the porn even in the realm of the entity, with the description, an all-time classic. You won't see things quite the same again. You don't describe something you used to consume like that. This isn't a memento. This is something that our boy Kenneth actively enjoys to get the effect of the add-on. And the nature of the add-on's effect is the most confusing part of all. The VHS porn switches the colours of the Afterpiece Tonic and Afterpiece Antidote gas clouds. How on earth does a VHS of pornography change the colours of chemical gas clouds? I know the description implies that it changes the way you perceive the bottled gases, but that would only explain why the clown sees them the way he does. The survivors presumably don't watch the porn with him, so why would they see the gases in different colours? And don't try to tell me that the survivors do watch porn with the clown before the trial starts, because A, holy fuck that's creepy, and B, surely then they'd expect to see the bottles switched colour, so they'd never be caught out by them anyway. Come to think of it, how does he even watch it? He lives in a caravan outside Father Campbell's chapel in the Crotus Pren Asylum realm, which is an asylum for about the 1920s. It doesn't have conventional mains electricity, and even if it did, the clown's caravan in the asylum grounds has neither a VHS player nor even a TV to play it on. Maybe the entity took it from him so he wouldn't get distracted, but then how does he even make use of the add-on in the first place? If his own caravan doesn't have the hardware, and the asylum realm as a whole isn't even equipped with a proper electrical supply, then how does the clown watch his precious porn? Presumably he has to travel to one of the other realms to get his rocks off. And with a bit of legwork we can work out which realm it might be. We can immediately discount both the Red Forest maps, Dead Dog Saloon, the Coldwind Farm maps, the Sanctum of Wrath and Larry's Memorial Institute, since they're set in time periods before VHS was invented in 1977. We can also discount Lampkin Lane here, since the only TV that we see in Halloween doesn't have a VHS player, which makes sense since VHS technology was still in its very early days in 1978. The Macmillan Estate, Hawkins National Laboratory and Autohaven Wreckers realms can also be ruled out at this stage, since they're all places of work that are unlikely to have VHS players on hand. And lastly, we can cut Badham Preschool out of the running, since it's from the 2010 remake of Nightmare on Elm Street, by which time the VHS tape had largely been phased out. This leaves Midwich Elementary School, the Gideon Meatpacking Plant, the Yamaoka Estate and the Mount Ormond Resort as the remaining options for the clown's masturbation quest. And of those 4 maps, there's only one that not only has multiple television screens across the map, but even has a VHS player on display. The Gideon Meatpacking Plant was the home of John Kramer, otherwise known as the Jigsaw Killer, who used VHS tapes to address his victims behind the guise of Billy the Puppet. One of those VHS players and a television screen to play it on can be seen in the reverse bear trap room in the downstairs section of the Gideon Meatpacking Plant. Another one is sitting by Jigsaw's workbenches in the room above the bathroom. This has everything that an overweight porn addict in a clown costume could ask for in a place to milk his sausage. So this just leaves the question: what exactly is on the clown's VHS porn? I'm not asking this out of some perverse interest, but as I said earlier, whatever the clown's specific sexual proclivities are, they're weird enough to change chemical compounds into different colours simply through consumption. Whatever this is no ordinary porn. To fully understand what it is the clown is watching, we have to look a little deeper and find a precedent. The VHS porn is not the only videotape in the realm of the entity, far from it. So I did some digging, and an add-on simply called Videotape already existed in Dead by Daylight, and predated the clown's introduction into the game. It belongs to none other than Amanda Young, the pig, who makes her home in the Gideon Meatpacking Plant. In the description for the add-on it says, a recording of Jigsaw, explaining the game's rules to Amanda. Nothing too bizarre here, but this isn't the only one. Pyramid Head also has an add-on called Forgotten Videotape, describing a similar VHS left in the Lakeview Hotel, which is the hotel that James Sunderland and Mary Sunderland Shepherd stayed at during their trip to Silent Hill before the events of Silent Hill 2. Now this one could make a lot of sense as to how it gives the clown's bottles transformative properties, as Silent Hill is explicitly supernatural. If it can turn the psychological landscape of its inhabitants into a literal landscape of monsters, it can definitely turn yellow chemicals into purple ones and vice versa. But Just because the forgotten videotape probably has weird arcane Silent Hill powers, doesn't mean the VHS porn does. And just because Amanda's videotape is John Kramer giving her the rules of her game, doesn't mean that that's what's on the clown's tape. Unless... hardens her determination. Two lovers vacationing in Silent Hill. You won't see things quite the same again? Oh god. They're all the same tape. These 3 tapes are all the same tape. The tape that originated in Silent Hill is a video of 2 lost lovers having their honeymoon night at the Lakeview Hotel, and then came into the possession of John Kramer as he voiced over it to instruct Amanda. What he'd say to instruct Amanda as a voiceover of 2 young newlyweds getting busy at a creepy hotel in Silent Hill, I don't know, but here we are. Eventually, once Amanda moved on from Kramer's influence and started running the games on her own, she no longer needed the tape, and it fell into the loving hands of Kenneth Chase, who, for reasons unknown to science and logic, saw that tape and went, "Oh yeah, that's my shit, I'm having some of that." Whatever sick perversion may have drawn him to it, that VHS from the Lakeview Hotel has changed Kenneth Chase's life forever. After consuming its sordid contents in the sickening depths of the Gideon meatpacking plant, the world warps around the clown as he brews fervently back in his caravan. Purple becomes yellow and yellow becomes purple, to the point that not even he can be sure anymore. He could never have done this without his trusty pornography, but there's no going back now. Kenneth Chase is a man changed by what he's seen, as he harnesses the power of a god born from Silent Hill's cursed otherworld every time he makes the bold man cry salty, salty tears. So what did we learn from this? We learned that kink-shaming people is sometimes justified when you're dealing with extra-dimensional god powers, that Amanda Young is way too generous with who she does to her television sets, and, most importantly, that this game and its characters have so much more to offer than meets the eye. Behaviour has created a rich and complicated world that now lives beyond the restrictions of its individual stories. And when it comes to applying logic to this game's characters to enhance them, the clown's masturbation habits are just the tip of the iceberg. How do the Legion members charge the Walkmans they play their mixtapes on? They ask the Doctor nicely, obviously. Why haven't we had a Robin legendary skin for Nancy yet? Because Scoops Ahoy is a US-based company, and the entity doesn't want to risk her and Steve opening a branch and having to deal with US tax regulations and food standards. Why can't Victor properly open lockers? Because if he discovered there were hatchets in them that were small enough for him to effectively wield, he'd be completely unstoppable, and the entity's realm would collapse like a house of cards. The world of Dead by Daylight is one that keeps on giving, and I hope future releases and stories keep up this high level of intrigue and complexity. For now, I'll leave you all with this. When the Doctor decided to scrap that tape he had as an add-on, he definitely had the right idea.